Hi guys, and welcome to your notes on drugs and consciousness. In this lecture, we're going to be talking about drugs that affect consciousness. So remember our earlier slides, we looked at what conscious states are, so awake, sleeping, dreaming, and then we looked at how we can alter consciousness with hypnosis. And today we're looking at drugs, illegal and not illegal, that could alter consciousness. Just a disclaimer, so I will be saying you, when you take this or you take that, I don't literally mean you. I just meant like the universal you, okay? All right, so let's start on our notes. So first of all, for something to be considered a psychoactive drug, it has to be able to cross the blood-brain barrier, okay? So remember in our past notes we've talked about, we've talked about the BBB, so the blood-brain barrier, meaning that it's able to go from being in your bloodstream to crossing into your brain. So there's some things that you take, or when you eat, those chemicals do not go over the blood-brain barrier. They're too big. But psychoactive drugs are able to cross that blood-brain barrier, and that's why they're considered psychoactive. All right, so psycho meaning that it crosses into the brain. Okay. So we're going to talk about two things with psychostimulants, or things that are able to cross your blood-brain barrier. Dependence and addiction, and then we'll actually lay out some drugs that are associated with them. You do need to know these vocabulary terms, and they're not defined here for you, so just go ahead and write down what I'm saying. So tolerance and withdrawal. So everyone has a tolerance for certain types of drugs, and there's always some part of withdrawal that goes of coming off of those drugs. And then dependence. There's two different types of dependence. You can be either physically dependent on something or psychologically dependent on them. All right, so let's take a look at this graph talking about our tolerance, or how much we can take of a certain type of drug. And again, when I'm talking about drugs, we're going to be talking about things like nicotine and caffeine and alcohol, and then harder drugs or illegal drugs like cocaine, LSD, heroin, things like that. So when you think drug, I don't want you to think necessarily something bad or illegal, just that it's altering my state of consciousness, right? So psychoactive. All right, so this graph is what it's showing here. So on my x-axis, the thing that's changing, this is going to be my my drug dose, okay? So over here we're looking at drug dose. So we have small and large. So a small amount and then a large amount. And then over here what I'm measuring is my drug effect. And this is little effect and big effect. And with most drugs of abuse, or things that you can get addicted to, the very first time that you take in that drug, a small amount, you get a big effect. Okay, so this is the first response to exposure. All right, so, and what you can tell is, so I have a small amount at first, and it has, over time here, it has a big effect, right? Or not over time, I'm sorry, as I increase my drug dose. So as I increase my drug dose, I have a bigger effect. But after repeated exposure to that drug, I need more to have the same effect, okay? So I need larger amounts to have a big effect. And this is called building up your tolerance, right? So this is my tolerance, is how much I need to elicit a response. Now you can think about this with just like caffeine, that sometimes the first time you have a cup of coffee, you just need a little bit to have a large response, versus the second time maybe you need more and more coffee to stay awake, all right? So the effect in this case would be staying awake, and the amount or the dose would be like cups of coffee. Now when people are coming off of that drug, they go through something called withdrawals. And withdrawals are physical or mental, coming off of that drug. So if you've ever seen movies of people that are addicted to like heroin, they come off of very bad physical withdrawals. And sometimes people come off of withdrawals that are mental, all right? And this actually has links right into dependency. So dependency, you can be physically dependent on a drug, or you can be psychologically dependent. Physical dependence, all right? So you're gonna look at things where like your body literally like shakes, or is in physical pain without it. So we're talking about physical, you're talking about like pain, you're talking about shaking, physically getting sick, like vomiting, all right? So you could feel sick when you don't have that drug, all right? Versus a psychological dependence, psychological meaning your brain, right, psycho. This means like you feel sad without it, right? You feel like you are dependent on it. You need it to get through your day. There's no necessarily physical pain, but it's a mental addiction. Okay, so mental addiction. All right, so let's actually talk about some other things and some specific examples. All right, so there's 3 different types of psychoactive drugs that we're going to talk about. We're talking about depressants, stimulants, and then hallucinogens. All right, so the first one we're going to talk about is depressants. Depressants, let's click over here. Oh, I just did those 3 right there. Hold on. Erase. Escape. All right, there they are. The 3 types of psychoactive drugs. So depressants, stimulants, and hallucinogenics. All right. So the 3 types of depressants that we'll be talking about in this class are alcohol barbiturates, which are like tranquilizers, and opiates. We'll talk about some street drugs and then like prescription drugs that are associated with these. Okay, so first of all, what you need to know about depressants. Depressants, why they're called depressants, they don't necessarily make you sad. Right? People that generally drink alcohol are not very sad. They look very happy. They're called depressants because they slow down your reactions. All right? They depress your sympathetic nervous system. All right? So they slow down your sympathetic nervous system. So think about things in your sympathetic nervous system. Your reactions to things. Your heartbeat, your breathing, they slow down these functions of your body and your sympathetic nervous system that are supposed to arouse you in times of stress, right? So think about someone who's drinking alcohol and something stressful happens. They're slower reactions. They're less likely to like snap out of it as fast, right? So their adrenaline doesn't do anything. And in general, it slows down my body's reactions to environmental stimulus. Okay, so that's why it's called a depressant. It inhibits a lot of your mental capacities. So things that you wouldn't normally do, you might do while you are drinking alcohol. It also impairs your judgment and memory. All right, so I outlined those in the next slide, and then we'll talk about these in general here in just a second. Okay. All right, so here are my my depressants. So disinhibition, meaning that you are less inhibited when you drink alcohol. Slowed neural processing. This just means like you don't get things as fast, right? So slow neural processing just means like the axons in your body are not firing as fast, all right? Memory disruption. A lot of the times it's associated with short-term memory, all right? So not long-term memory, but putting things into your short-term into your long-term. So you might remember things when you are drinking that happened 2 seconds ago, but that next day it has a problem putting it into your long-term memory, all right? People don't often remember some things when they're drinking. Reduce self-awareness and self-control. You're less aware of what you're saying, what you're doing, how you're moving, and controlling your actions. So this is something like speech, right? So self-control might be something where it's controlling what you talk about and how you talk. So slurred speech is often associated with alcohol. Expectancy effects, meaning that you would expect different things to happen when you're drinking than you would when you are sober. And then a lot of the times, like it's alcohol plus sex is called the perfect storm, because a lot of our inhibitions with sex exist when we are sober because we have neural processing, right? We're thinking. We are more self-aware and have more self-control than when we do when we are drinking. Okay, so those are depressants with alcohol. They slow down my reaction time. They slow down my neural impulses, and you're less aware of yourself and your surroundings. Okay, moving on then to barbiturates. Barbiturates are tranquilizers. These very much slow down. Think of being tranquilized, like an animal being tranquilized, like almost to the point of sleep, but they're really like shutting down body functions where you just lay there. And then opiates are actually associated with any type of pain. All right, so opiates, this is a really old drug. So opiates are consist of things like heroin is a type of opiate. You also have things like street drugs that you guys might be more aware of, like Oxycontin, any type of, oh gosh, what's the oxy one that goes with it? Norcos are a type of opiate, anything that has to do with pain, right? That's generally associated with relieving pain, and large amounts is considered psychoactive drug because it's affecting other things, okay? So those are going to be my depressants, things that slow down my reactions. People that are on depressants generally aren't very active. They're kind of out of it, and in large amounts can be very, very harmful. All right. So my next active psychoactive drug we're going to talk about are stimulants. So stimulants are the exact opposite of depressants. They're stimulants because they are increasing reaction within my nervous system. These are things like amphetamines, like methamphetamine, speed, crystal meth, crack is a type of stimulant, and then caffeine is a type of stimulant, right? So that's kind of an extreme, is to say that amphetamines are meth. Caffeine stimulates all those things in my body that alcohol depresses. This is a lovely picture. This is for meth. Meth is a really addictive drug and very messy in its interactions with your body, but it also is very highly addictive. So people that use meth once generally are meth users for the rest of their life. So this is a picture here. It says, "Don't let drug dealers change the face of your neighborhood." And this is a picture of someone before meth addiction and after. Really pretty. All right, so stimulants also include other things like nicotine, crack cocaine, and ecstasy, which is MDMA. We're going to have a chart later, and you can write down some of these things and what they do to your body. Here are the actual psychostimulants of nicotine, so a stimulant. So nicotine, or smoking cigarettes, either by chewing or smoking, is going into your blood, crosses your blood-brain barrier, and increases your alertness, right? So alertness is just like your consciousness with your environment. Next, they increase your heart rate and blood pressure versus alcohol that decreases those things. Psychoactive stimulants at high levels relax muscles and trigger neurotransmitters that may reduce stress, so you feel less stress when you are on stimulants. And they reduce circulation to extremities, so people who are on stimulants sometimes have less sensation or like cold hands, fingers, because there's getting less circulation here. And then the last thing to do is they suppress your appetite for carbohydrates. That's weird, right? So carbohydrates meaning like taking in energy. People who take stimulants tend to not be hungry. This type of drug might be one that people lose a lot of weight on very rapidly because it suppresses hunger. Versus with the other ones, with my depressants, think about people that drink a lot. They actually tend to gain weight because you lose those inhibitions to not eat, right? So you might have inhibitions to, I don't want to eat this, I don't want to gain weight. People who drink a lot tend to eat more because those inhibitions are gone. Now let's look at cocaine on a very neurotransmitter level. All right, so cocaine is a stimulant, and now we're going back to our neurotransmitter. So this should look familiar to you. We've talked about this a lot. But a neurotransmitter is a message sending from one to another. And we're going to look at what dopamine does, cocaine does to these neurotransmitters. All right, so cocaine says the sending neuron normally reabsorbs the neurotransmitter in a process called reuptake. We've already talked about that. But what happens is cocaine, so my cocaine molecules there, if you can see these are my little yellow things right here. They block the reuptake. Okay, so they block the reuptake of dopamine. We've already talked about cocaine, dope going together. They also block the reuptake of norepinephrine and serotonin. So all those things are stopped from being reuptaken into my cell. So they stay out in my synaptic cleft, and therefore all those symptoms of those neurotransmitters are felt more. Okay, so it intensifies, if you look down here, intensifies their normal mood altering effects, and the absence of those produces a crash. And that's like when people coming off of drugs feel that, we talked a little about that in class, feel that like they're coming off of something because they don't have all of those neurotransmitters that they did when they were on the drug. Okay, this is that slide up close. So the binding is the binding blocks reabsorbing of those molecules. All right, so my last group of drugs are called hallucinogens. And hallucinogens are also called psychedelics. These are LSD, acid, THC, which is in marijuana. These are things that actually produce sensations that aren't there. All right, so you can think about like hallucinating, but it heightens our the senses. So the influence of our drug use. Let me go back to this one. You can think about these. These have really like mixed, what I want to say, a mechanism. So someone who's on LSD is very different from someone who is taking or smoking marijuana or consuming THC in some way. They're very complicated in their interactions. There's not just one neurotransmitter it affects. And it actually is looking at parts of your brain and stimulating things like with hallucinogens or psychedelics. We have, like, you see things, you hear things, you smell things that might not be going on in your external environment. All right? Okay, so we're going to look at the influences of drug use and kind of that tri-theory that we always look at, our biology, our psychological, and our social cultural influences. This is interesting. So it says high school seniors reported using drug use over time, looking at alcohol, marijuana, and cocaine. So cocaine peaked in the 80s, seemed to be like an influence of cocaine of high school seniors, and it's probably the least used drug. Alcohol, definitely the highest, but there has been less use over time. And then marijuana's kind of gone up and down, higher in the 70s, kind of low in the 90s, and come back and kind of in the middle there. This is the percentage of seniors that reported using the drug at least once. And you can think about why. Alcohol is more prevalent, definitely, and marijuana is more prevalent than cocaine. But there seems to be some things that are more socially acceptable of alcohol, marijuana, and cocaine. All right, so this class we're going to fill in this chart we're going to fill in class. So I'm going to actually skip through it because you don't need to be looking at this right now. We're skip to our last thing, the level of analysis for drug use, looking at our tri-theory. So why do people use drugs? Any type of drug, cocaine, to alcohol, to caffeine. So my biological influences. There's definitely a genetic predisposition to addiction and to use. And there's also variations in neurotransmitter systems. Some people are more affected by one drug than another, and therefore might be more likely to become addicted to that drug over another. And then if alcoholism and addiction definitely runs in families, it does not necessarily mean that you will be addicted if your parents are, but there definitely is a correlation. But there's also this other influence of psychological. Do you think that just because your parents are alcoholics that you might be? But psychological influences of why people might use drugs, lacking a sense of purpose, being stressed, or being depressed have all been linked to alcohol use or drug use in general. Again, though, we talked about that a little bit at the beginning, that is it one thing that affects the other? Am I depressed so I drink, or am I drinking because I'm depressed, right? So it could be a causation, but not an effect. All right, social culture influences. Your environment definitely affects drug use, the people that are around you. Your attitude towards drug use, do you think it's okay? Do you not think it's okay? This includes like religious beliefs. And then peer influences. We've already talked about the effects that your peers have on your choices. And now that's actually critical for teenager survival, but it also could affect whether you use drugs or not. All right, so those are our levels of analysis for drug use. We'll fill in that chart on specifics of what drugs do and their bad effects on your body. And any questions you have, go ahead and write them down, and we'll talk about it in class. The end. So the first one we're going to talk about are dependents.